Good morning, everyone. Happy Christmas Eve. Um, I thought that it would be fitting today. You know, we've had this beautiful thread that started with Viveka Devi's talk about purification and the fire ceremony. And she was speaking of this metaphor of the ladder, that we have to climb this ladder with our own self-effort and our own willingness until we get to a certain point and we realize we can't climb on our own anymore. And we have to fall into our faith in divine wisdom, divine guidance, and divine grace. And that metaphor, that symbol of the ladder, was threaded through Kamala Devi's reading of the Whispers, and even in our reading today, this staircase that we have to climb constantly. Even the affirmation, of course, Swamiji would be so poetic and allowing all of this to line up so beautifully, but our affirmation of high-mindedness, always reaching upward toward the divine ascension. And then here we come tonight on the eve when we celebrate the birth of Christ, and the birth of Christ consciousness within us. We get to climb that golden staircase, that ladder, reaching up toward the heights, reaching up toward that place where, as Swamiji says in our reading, what is the I? That is no I. The I beyond thought, the I beyond the body, the I beyond any self-definition that exists in its eternal state of bliss. And in sharing about something that is so difficult to begin to describe, and since it's Christmas Eve, I thought I'd start by telling a Christmas story. But instead of telling the story that we all know, that we'll get to hear tonight, for those of you that come back this evening, we create the entire scene of Christmas and Christ's birth with all of the shepherds, all of the wise men, with Mary and Jesus and the baby and Joseph. And so we're going to tell that story, but that story which takes place 2,000 years later, right now, in the birth of Christmas and the story of Christmas in each one of us, in the devotee's heart. You know, the story of Christmas begins with the Virgin Mary. And the Virgin Mary is the truth seeker who in their state of pure divine yearning to know God, to feel God, to love God, reaches out. And that soul call is felt, and it's heard, and it's met. Because each one of us, when we are seeking, when we're walking the path toward God, the one thing that God can't resist in us is returning that call of love. The one thing God can't resist is to give us all of that love in return. And so our truth seeker, in her virgin state of joy and purity in the heart, calls out to the divine. And instead of the angel Gabriel appearing in all of his greatness to come and give the annunciation of Christ, for the truth seeker, that annunciation comes in whispers. It comes through hearing a song written by Swami Kriyananda that awakens our heart. It comes by being offered a book with a picture of a beautiful great master or a guru. It comes from sitting in a meditation and feeling the stillness of the heart. And so the annunciation, it's quieter for each one of us as truth seekers. But if we're listening and if we're attent, we can hear it. And when we begin to hear the sound of that annunciation, the whisper of the call of the truth of our soul, and we start to follow it, it can come just as it came from the Virgin Mary, with the joy, the excitement, the exhilaration, and the fear and the trepidation, the hesitation. Am I worthy of carrying the Christ consciousness? Am I worthy of nurturing my own true soul's right, my divine birthright? And of course, just as Joseph and Mary had to travel through the desert to return back to Bethlehem to birth the baby Jesus, for each one of us on our own soul's journey, as we're called toward that seeking, we have to travel through our own deserts of loneliness. We have to travel through our own wilderness of ego consciousness. We get caught up and tripped up along the way. And the world just constantly pulls us out and dangles presents and toys and exciting things in front of us. But we know, step by step, though the journey is hard, that we can keep walking and making our way there, because it has been enlivened within us what our true heart's desire is, where our true soul truly lives. And just like Mary and Joseph, for each one of us along that journey, we knock on the doors of the temples and we knock on the doors of the churches. We knock on the doors by opening books of all different religions, each one, each time, perhaps being turned away from what truth is for us, knowing that it's out there, that somewhere for us, that truth of our soul's birthright will be delivered. The birth of that consciousness will come. And for Mary and Joseph being turned away from one inn after another, until finally a gentle innkeeper takes pity on them and says, well, there's a stable back behind my inn that you can stay in. It's warm and it's dry. And for each one of us, the devotee and the truth seeker banging on the doors of the churches and the mosques and the temples, desperately seeking truth. One day this truth seeker goes home and he sits in front of his own little altar, humble beginnings, just lighting one candle, perhaps taking this beautiful book that he's been given, placing it right there, right in front of the candle, and praying to God, meditating with Divine Mother, asking to be awakened to divine Christ consciousness. And in that humble state of stillness on the darkest of nights, for this truth seeker, that Christ consciousness is born, that Christ consciousness is awakened, and it's cradled and it's nurtured. And just in that one tiny space, with one candle lit, to enliven and to brighten even the darkest of nights, the truth seeker is awakened. And there is the Christ consciousness. There is what he has been seeking all of his life. And it comes in the form of the Guru. It comes in the form of the picture of Yogananda, who's gently coaxing and offering that peace, that truth. And this isn't the end of the story, of course. For the truth seeker, it's just the beginning. But the truth seeker now has become a disciple. And the truth seeker is following the blessings and the grace of the divine Guru. And he's visited by wise men along the way. Wise men who bring beautiful music that uplifts our hearts. Jesus Christ is born this day. Oratorios of music that we can sing that show us what truth is. It comes in the form of our Guru Bhais who come and visit and meditate with us, who pick us up, who lift us up along that journey. The wise men in Jesus' story brought myrrh and frankincense and gold. And for us, we get kindness. For us, we get meditation. For us, we get music and books to study. We get pictures and images to look at, videos to watch and to listen. And of course, we get the gift that is true gold. We get the gift of Kriya Yoga. And the devotee begins to practice that Kriya Yoga and to awaken and to coax. And just like the Virgin Mary is holding and cradling the baby, we hold and cradle and nurture that divine consciousness within us. Every morning and every evening, we visit our meditation space. We offer ourselves back to the divine. We're reminded again and again of who we truly are. And in the midst of that, in that Christmas story that is our story for each one of us, over time we are awakened. Over time we remember our true selves. Over time the Christ consciousness is enlivened right here and opened. And we begin to see the world through the eyes of that divine. And even if we slip every now and then, those deserts that we have to cross, those wilderness of ego consciousness, they're there, they're waiting, but we're holding the baby Jesus. We're holding the Christ consciousness. And when we're there and we're resting in that place of stillness, this is the beauty, or one of the many beautiful things, of the story of Christmas and the story of Christ's birth. When Mary's holding the baby Jesus, it doesn't matter anymore. Can she do it? Should she do it? Why was she chosen? All that matters is that she's holding the baby Jesus. All that matters is that that consciousness of Sanatan Dharma, that truth of eternal bliss, is resting in her arms. And the Christmas story, coming back to this theme of what we're speaking to today, what is the I beyond I? If we try and think it with our minds, it doesn't make sense. How can I be here and I'm not I, but I am I, when I is everywhere and I is God and I is Divine Mother and I am I? begins to get lost. But when we're holding the baby Jesus, what we do, how we serve, what we're being asked to give of ourselves, it doesn't matter. Comparisons just melt away. Desires just melt away. Everything we need and we think we are just melts away. Because here in the cradle of our hearts, we're nurturing that divine flame that engulfs all of our desires, all of our self-identities. And it's such a simple and beautiful practice for us to do. The story of the birth of Jesus, the Christmas story that we have here, there's so many wonderful parallels. I was just listening to a talk by Swami Devi that she gave several years ago on this topic, and I learned something new about Ananda that I didn't know, that Ananda village, and actually then Shama filled in more for me, Ananda village, where we now have this beautiful community, was actually, when it was first bought, it was a pig farm. And so wasn't, isn't that right? So wasn't the land, the land in Italy was also a pig farm. And I was just thinking, of course, wouldn't we be born from just the most beautiful and humble circumstances? And look what's been created. Look what can be created. Baby Jesus was born in a manger, in a little tiny stable, surrounded by shepherds and surrounded by animals. But who came? Who came to greet the baby Jesus? It was the wise men, it was the great ones. Just at the end of this reading that we're left with, meditate on the lives of the great ones. Meditate on the lives of the avatars. It doesn't matter what the circumstances look like on the surface. It doesn't matter what we're being asked, what role we're being asked to play in this life, what our karma is asking us to do. What matters is that just as this beautiful affirmation reminds us, we lift ourselves up out of that material definition and existence, and we live in divine consciousness. Because when we're living in that space, we cannot help but live in love. We cannot help but feel that love just envelop everyone and everything around us. And then, as I was saying earlier, it doesn't matter how we're being asked to serve, what we're being asked to do, if we think we should be given more or less or whatever it may be. We're just like Mary holding the baby Jesus. We're just here cradling that divine fire that exists within us. And that is the I that we are all seeking. That is the I that is beyond all existence. It is the remembrance of Christ consciousness. It's the remembrance of Divine Mother, that this entire world distills down to one reality, and that reality is love. And I was meditating and thinking on this the other day, that if God is love and God is all existence and God is all creation and everything is love, what a power we possess, because we have the ability to love. Always. It is within our ability 100% of the time, which means you possess the power of the divine every single moment of your life. And how easy it would be if we could simply remember to hold the baby Jesus, if we could simply remember to cradle that divine love within our hearts, to awaken it, to offer it and to share it, to be an example of it in every moment. When we are in love, when we are giving love, we are one with the divine. We are in that state of existence beyond all creation, where in the stillness, in the depths of the darkest of evenings, being turned away over and over and over again, that divine Christ consciousness is awakened. And we know who we truly are, and we hold it, and we possess it, and we remember it always, and we carry it with us. God bless you.
Let's take a moment.